Welcome to the Ultimate General Knowledge Marathon. This video contains 300 carefully selected GK questions and answers suitable for competitive exams across the globe. Whether you are preparing for national level civil services or state and university exams, this video is your one-stop solution for brushing up on world history, geography, politics, science, and more. What is the currency of South Korea? Won. Which Indian city is famous for diamond cutting and polishing? Surat. Which Indian river is sacred to both Hindus and Buddhists? Ganga. Who was the first woman to become chief minister of an Indian state? Sucheta Kripalani. Which animal is the fastest marine creature? Sailfish. Which river is also called the Ganga of the South? Godavari. Which Indian leader's birth anniversary is celebrated as Teachers' Day? Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. Which Indian state is known for the Bihu festival? Assam. Which is the oldest functional observatory in India? Kodaikanal Observatory. Which festival marks the beginning of the Sikh New Year? Baisakhi. Who invented dynamite? Alfred Nobel. Which instrument is used to measure atmospheric pressure? Barometer. Which metal is used to make wires due to its high conductivity? Copper. Which Indian city hosts the Kumbh Mela? Prayagraj. Which Indian Prime Minister launched the 20-point program? Indira Gandhi. What is the capital of Uzbekistan? Tashkent. Which river is associated with the Nagarjuna Sagar Dam? Krishan. Which Indian scientist developed India's first satellite launch vehicle? Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Which Indian state is the largest producer of natural gas? Assam. What is the capital of Chile? Santiago. What is the name of the boundary between India and Pakistan? Radcliffe Line. Which vitamin is known as anti-sterility vitamin? Vitamin E. What is the tallest grass in the world? Bamboo. What is the main source of vitamin C? Citrus fruits. What is the process of cell division in somatic cells called? Mitosis. Which Indian lake is the largest brackish water lagoon? Chilika Lake. What is the smallest unit of life? Cell. Which planet takes the shortest time to orbit the sun? Mercury. Which Indian freedom fighter was hanged on March 23, 1931? Bhagat Singh. What is the highest civilian award in India? Bharat Ratna. Which city is known as the Steel City of India? Jamshedpur. Which Indian state is known for the festival of Pongal? Tamil Nadu. Which Indian city is famous for Sanganeri print textiles? Jaipur. What is the chemical symbol of sodium? Na. What is the function of mitochondria? Powerhouse of the cell. Which Indian river is a tributary of the Ganga? Yamuna. Who was the first Indian woman to win an Olympic medal in wrestling? Sakshi Malik. Which Indian hill station is known as the Queen of Hills? Mussoorie. Which Indian state has the longest international border? West Bengal. Which festival is celebrated by Buddhists to mark the birth of Buddha? Vesak, Buddha Purnima. Which is the most abundant element in the human body? Oxygen. Which Indian city is famous for Rajasthani miniature paintings? Udaipur. Which Indian state is called the land of black diamonds? Jharkhand. Which Indian king was a patron of Buddhism and spread it across Asia? Ashoka. Which Indian monument is known for its iron pillar that does not rust? Qutub Complex. Which Indian scientist is credited with the Green Revolution? M.S. Swaminathan. Which state is the highest producer of tobacco in India? Andhra Pradesh. Who composed the Bhakti poems in Tamil under the name Alvars? Vaishnavite saints. What is the full form of NASA? National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Which Indian city is known for Kalamkari art? Machilipatnam. Which river is associated with the city of Haridwar? Ganga. Which Indian city is famous for its Zari Zardozi embroidery? Lucknow. What is the process of conversion of solid directly into gas called? Sublimation. What is the capital of Ukraine? Kyiv. What is the chemical symbol for iron? Fe. Which Indian city is known for its educational institutions and often called Oxford of the East? Which part of the body controls reflex actions? Spinal cord. Which Indian monument was built by Mughal Emperor Humayun's wife? Humayun's tomb. Who founded the Bahmani kingdom? Ala-ud-din Bahman Shah. What is the main ingredient of glass? Silica. What is the capital of Sweden? Stockholm. Which Indian river is known as Dakshina Bhagirathi? Godavari. Who was the first woman judge of the Supreme Court of India? Justice M. Fatima Bibi. Which Indian leader is remembered for the Salt March? Mahatma Gandhi. What is the process by which plants make food? Photosynthesis. Which Indian city is known for Bandhani textiles? Rajkot. Which Indian freedom fighter was known as Andhra Kesari? Thanguthuri Prakasham. What is the term for the annual rise and fall in sea level? Tide. What is the name of the highest military decoration awarded in India? Param Veer Chakra. Which is the southernmost point of the Indian mainland? Kanyakumari. Which Indian state is known as the land of blue hills? Mizoram. Who discovered radioactivity? Henry Becquerel. Which Indian city is called the city of gates? Aurangabad. Which is the national aquatic animal of India? Ganges river dolphin. Which river flows through the city of Varanasi? Ganga. Who wrote the Arthashastra? Kautilya. Which Indian city is famous for the Shalimar Bagh and Nishat Bagh? Srinagar. Which Indian state has a unique dance form called Dolu Kunitha? Karnataka. Who was the first Indian to win an Oscar? Bhanu Athaya. What is the name of India's second moon mission? Chandrayaan-2. Which organ of the human body produces bile? Liver. What is the largest three-digit prime number? 997. Which Indian city hosts the headquarters of Infosys? Bengaluru. Which river flows through the Grand Canyon in the USA? Colorado River. Which gas is commonly used in refrigerants? Freon. What is the full form of lead? Light-emitting diode. Which freedom fighter is known as the Lion of Punjab? Lala Lajpat Rai. Which is the national calendar of India? Saka calendar. Which Indian state has the most number of scheduled tribes? Madhya Pradesh. Which soil is most suitable for cotton cultivation? Black soil. What is the capital of Laos? Vientiane. Which Mughal emperor built the Moti Masjid in Delhi? Aurangzeb. What is the name of the naval exercise between India and USA? Malabar. Which vitamin helps in absorption of calcium? Vitamin D. What is the name of the river island in Assam? Majuli. Which Indian sportsperson is associated with shooting and won Olympic gold? Abhinav Bindra. Which temple is known as the richest temple in India? Padmanabhaswamy Temple. Who was the first Indian woman to reach Antarctica? Mihar Moose. What is the capital of New Zealand? Wellington. Which is the fastest bird on land? Ostrich. Which Indian city is known as the Mango City? Malihabad. What is the main source of energy for the earth? Sun. What is the study of teeth called? Odontology. Which is the deepest lake in the world? Lake Baikal. Who was the first Indian woman to win the Booker Prize? Arundhati Roy. Which dance form originated from Manipur? Manipuri. Which Indian state is known as the land of rising sun? Arunachal Pradesh. Which chemical is used to disinfect drinking water? Chlorine. What is the currency of Indonesia? Rupiah. Which ancient Indian university was known for Buddhist learning? Nalanda. Which mineral is used in making cement? Limestone. Which gas is used in fluorescent tubes? Mercury vapor. Which Indian city is famous for Ajanta and Ellora caves? Aurangabad. Which is the largest tiger reserve in India? Nagarjunsagar Srisailam. Which Indian leader translated the Bhagavad Gita into English? Bal Gangadhar Tilak. What is the largest desert in the world? Sahara. Which country is the largest producer of wheat in the world? China. Which Indian city is called the Science City? Kolkata. Which lake is located near Mount Kailash? Lake Mansarovar. Which is the smallest continent by land area? Australia. Which Indian city is famous for its Maratha architecture? Pune. Which gas is used for inflating tires? Nitrogen. What is the unit of measurement for frequency? Hertz. What is the name of the Indian GPS system? NAVIC. Who was the first Indian woman pilot? Sarla Thakral. What is the name of the world's first artificial satellite? Sputnik 1. Which bird is the symbol of the Indian Postal Service? Post horned dove. Which Indian state has the highest number of national parks? Madhya Pradesh. Which Indian dance form is known for graceful hand movements and sculpturesque poses? Mohiniyattam. Which ocean is the saltiest? Atlantic Ocean. Which is the oldest university in India? Nalanda University. Which Indian state is known for its Toda tribal community? Tamil Nadu. Which organ is affected by jaundice? Liver. Which gas is used in balloons for lifting? Helium. What is the capital of Norway? Oslo. Which Indian scientist developed India's first indigenous computer TIFRAC? Homi Bhabha. What is the largest artery in the human body? Aorta. Which instrument is used to measure wind speed? Anemometer. Who wrote the Meghdutta? Kalidasa. Which is the smallest unit of matter? Atom. What is the currency of Myanmar? Kyat. Which Indian city is known for its IT industry and referred to as Cyberabad? Hyderabad. What is the full form of PIN in PIN code? Postal index number. Which Mughal emperor shifted his capital from Agra to Delhi? Shah Jahan. Which vitamin deficiency causes scurvy? Vitamin C. Who discovered the law of buoyancy? Archimedes. Which Indian state is known for the Banasura Sagar Dam? Kerala. Which city is known as the Golden City of India? Jaisalmer. Who was the founder of the slave dynasty in India? Qutb-ud-Din Aibak. What is the unit used to measure angles? Degree. Which gas is used in lamps for bright white light? Krypton. What is the full form of LAN? Local Area Network. Which city is known as the City of Oranges in India? Nagpur. What is the chemical name of baking soda? Sodium bicarbonate. Which Indian state is known for Hornbill Festival? Nagaland. Who wrote the book, The Discovery of India? Jawaharlal Nehru. Which Indian classical dance is performed with ankle bells and footwork? Kathak. Which Indian freedom fighter is known as the Grand Old Man of India? Dadabhai Nauroji. Which city is famous for its ship-breaking yard in Gujarat? Alang. Which is the southernmost island of India? Indira Point. What is the capital of Poland? Warsaw. Which Mughal emperor was defeated in the Second Battle of Panipat? Hemu. Which Indian state is famous for the Zuku Valley? Nagaland. Which river has the second largest basin in India after the Ganga? Godavari. What is the capital of Belgium? Brussels. Which desert lies in Rajasthan? Thar Desert. Which is the largest river flowing through Kerala? Periyar. Who is known as the father of Indian space program? Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Which city is famous for the Gateway of India? Mumbai. Which Indian leader was posthumously awarded Bharat Ratna in 1992? Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. What is the most common blood type in humans? O positive. Which part of the plant conducts water and minerals? Xylem. Which vitamin is also known as niacin? Vitamin B13. What is the study of human society and cultures called? Anthropology. Which state is the top producer of wheat in India? Uttar Pradesh. Which battle marked the beginning of British rule in India? Battle of Plassey. Which Indian state is famous for the Majuli River Island? Assam. Which freedom fighter formed the Azad Hind Fauj? Subhas Chandra Bose. What is the official language of Bhutan? Dzongkha. Which is the highest civilian award in India for women? Nari Shakti Puraskar. Which instrument is used to measure rainfall? Rain gauge. What is the study of the structure of the earth called? Geology. Which river is also known as the Ganga of the South? Godavari. Which country has the most number of time zones? France. What is the capital of Fiji? Suva. What is the outermost layer of the sun called? Corona. Who was the first Indian to win a medal in the Paralympics? Murlikant Pitkar. Which Indian monument has been designated as the symbol of peace by UNESCO? Sanchi Stupa. Which bird lays the largest egg? Ostrich. Which Indian king renounced war after the Kalinga War? Ashoka. Which Indian state is known as the fruit bowl of India? Himachal Pradesh. Which city is called the twin city of Hyderabad? Sikandarabad. Which river passes through Srishalamdam? Krishan. What is the capital of Israel? Jerusalem. Which state is known for the traditional chow dance? Jharkhand. What is the fastest growing plant on earth? Bamboo. Which Mughal emperor was called the shadow of God? Aurangzeb. What is the term for animals that feed on dead organisms? Scavengers. Which Indian cricketer has won the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award and Bharat Ratna? Sachin Tendulkar. Which Indian city is known as the textile capital of India? Coimbatore. Which river is associated with the city of Kolkata? Hooghly. What is the full form of ECG? Electrocardiogram. Which festival in Kerala celebrates the harvest season? Onam. Which Indian city is located at the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna? Prayagraj. What is the capital of Portugal? Lisbon. Which Indian state is the leading producer of turmeric? Telangana. Which Indian monument was inspired by the design of the lotus flower? Lotus Temple. Which Indian lake is famous for its floating post office? Dal Lake. What is the term for the natural satellite of Earth? Moon. Which Indian tribe is found in the Andaman Islands? Jarawa. What is the process of breaking down food called? Digestion. Who was the first president of the Indian National Congress? W.C. Banerjee. Which is the largest freshwater lake in the world? Lake Superior. Which river flows through the Sundarbans Delta? Ganga. Which Indian city is known for the Howrah Bridge? Kolkata. Which Indian state shares its border with the most number of states? Uttar Pradesh. What is the name of the highest civilian award in the United States? Presidential Medal of Freedom. Which element has the highest electrical conductivity? Silver. Which country is the largest archipelago in the world? Indonesia. Which Indian temple is dedicated to the sun god and located in Odisha? Konark Sun Temple. What does ISRO stand for? Indian Space Research Organization. Who is the first Asian to receive the Nobel Prize? Rabindranath Tagore. Which strait separates India and Sri Lanka? Palk Strait. What is the capital of Slovakia? Bratislava. Which organ produces red blood cells? Bone marrow. Which is the deepest trench in the world? Mariana Trench. Which gas forms the majority of the Earth's atmosphere? Nitrogen. Who was the first woman to win 2 Nobel Prizes? Marie Curie. Which is the longest serving Indian Prime Minister? Jawaharlal Nehru. Which mountain range forms a boundary between Europe and Asia? Ural Mountains. Which planet has the largest volcano in the solar system? Mars. What is the full form of LPG? Liquefied petroleum gas. Which blood group is known as the universal recipient? AB positive. Which Indian state is known for the folk art Madhubani painting? Bihar. Which lake is known as the sorrow of Rajasthan? Sambhar Lake. What is the study of fungi called? Mycology. Which vitamin is synthesized when human skin is exposed to sunlight? Vitamin D. What is the capital of Kazakhstan? Astana, now called Nur Sultan, but renamed back in 2022. What is the unit of measurement of electric charge? Coulomb. Which Indian state is known for the classical music tradition of Carnatic music? Tamil Nadu. Which gas causes acid rain? Sulfur dioxide. What is the name of the Indian Remote Sensing Satellite Series? IRAs. Who is the only person to receive both Bharat Ratna and Nishan-e-Pakistan? Morarji Desai. Which country hosted the first modern Olympic Games? Greece. Which Mughal emperor was defeated in the Battle of Samugad? Dara Shikoh. What is the name of the naval base in Karwar, Karnataka? In Skadamba. Which chemical element is named after a planet? Uranium. Which Indian city is known for the Golden Temple? Amritsar. What does DNA stand for? Deoxyribonucleic acid. Who is the first Indian woman to command a space mission? As of now, no Indian woman has commanded a space mission. What is the boiling point of water in Fahrenheit? 212 degree Fahrenheit. Which Indian leader introduced the Ryotwari system? Thomas Munro. What is the capital of Croatia? Zagreb. Which UNESCO heritage site in India is known for erotic sculptures? Khajuraho temples. Which mineral is commonly found in bones and teeth? Calcium. Which planet has the most intense storms? Jupiter. Which country is known as the land of the thunder dragon? Bhutan. What is the main source of energy in nuclear power plants? Uranium. Which Indian city is famous for its temple car festivals? Puri. Who was the first woman Nobel laureate in peace? Bertha von Suttner. Which ocean is the smallest by area? Arctic Ocean. Which is the only river in India that flows from east to west? Narmada. Which Indian king fought against Alexander the Great? Porus. Which Indian state is the leading producer of coffee? Karnataka. Which Indian scientist won the Nobel Prize for Economics? Amartya Sen. What is the term for the study of coins? Numismatics. Which Indian city is home to the ISRO Satellite Center? Bengaluru. Which hormone is called the stress hormone? Cortisol. Which planet has the shortest day? Jupiter. Which Indian folk music form uses instruments like ektara and dotara? Baul. What is the hardest known substance on earth? Diamond. Who founded the Arya Samaj? Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Which Mughal emperor commissioned the Peacock Throne? Shah Jahan. Which Indian state is known for the folk art Varli painting? Maharashtra. What is the name of the first nuclear submarine of India? INS Arihant. Which gas is responsible for the greenhouse effect? Carbon dioxide. Which Indian city is known as the Manchester of the East? Ahmedabad. What is the capital of Czech Republic? Prague. Which Indian fort is also known as the Golden Fort? Jaisalmer Fort. What is the SI unit of pressure? Pascal. Who is the founder of Buddhism? Siddhartha Gautam, Buddha. Which Indian classical dance is known for its martial art movements? Chhau. Which river forms the border between Haryana and Uttar Pradesh? Yamuna. What is the chemical symbol of tin? SN. Which Mughal queen is buried in Humayun's tomb along with him? Bega Begum. Who was the first Indian to be elected to the British Parliament? Dadabhai Naoroji. Which is the largest plateau in the world? Tibetan Plateau. Which is the longest national highway in India? NH 44. What is the capital of Maldives? Male. Which ancient university in India attracted students from China and Tibet? Nalanda. Which gas is used to fill incandescent light bulbs? Argon. Which ocean surrounds the Maldives? Indian Ocean. What is the process of water cycle involving evaporation, condensation, and precipitation called? Hydrological cycle. Which organ regulates blood sugar levels in the human body? Pancreas. Which Indian Prime Minister coined the slogan, Jai Jawan Jai Kisan? Lal Bahadur Shastri. What is the full form of ATM in banking? Automated teller machine. Which famous wildlife sanctuary is located in Assam? Kaziranga National Park. Which river is associated with the Bhitarkanika mangroves? Brahmani. What is the capital of Lebanon? Beirut. Which Indian state is the largest producer of cardamom? Kerala. Please like, share or subscribe.